Hey, so in this video, what I want to go through is the model that took me to 1.19 million in profit over the last 2 years. The same model that's helped me sort of sign 254 clients, 2,000 customers, basically using one offer, one post, one email a day, give or take, to show you how I sort of transitioned into this and I'm able to sort of live somewhat of a lifestyle business because I did a lot of hustling in the past and it took a very long time for me to sort of shift from strategy and into more of a system, right? While I mentor my students and my clients to sort of install this little thing in their business. But before we get into the nitty-gritty, I wanted to give you sort of a little backstory so you understand where I was coming from, what was going on, and what led to me finding this model. So, I was sort of studied music, then I did a master's and, pursued technology. I was a web developer for as long as I can remember after a really brief stint in the corporate world in an insurance firm. Where I was doing like project management and in the innovation team, absolutely didn't gel well with corporate, and then sort of spent close to a decade in London doing the 9 to 5, in startups, and then moving from that startup world where, I've helped various ones raise multiple 7 figures and so on, to doing the agency thing. Like I had a love for coding. I wanted to assemble and build things. But even though the environment was sort of cool, I learned a lot. It was this constant sort of rat race where I had to hop on the train, go to work, come back, gain a salary that was pretty good, but it was a grind, right? So roundabout in 2018, I sort of said, okay, I'm going to start my own agency, and moved back here because my father had been diagnosed with lung cancer and he was going through some depression because we lost my granddad, and I wanted to be close to home. So I gave up that salary to come and start and do this thing again here in Cyprus for a fraction of the cost. And after like a brief stint of me working as a web developer here for something like 14,000 euros per year, I pieced together the puzzle and finally pulled the trigger and founded my design agency. So everything that I had learned in London, I started doing here, but it was a grind. I was doing cold calls, cold emails, cold DMs, from Facebook to Instagram to whatnot, dabbling into SEO, whatever I could do and whatever I could get my hands on just to sort of earn a living. And obviously, I don't regret it because I ended up scaling my agency to 12 people at its peak, then downscaled it to 4 because there was something in me that didn't feel aligned. Like, we were doing web apps for people and mobile apps and building all these crazy things where, a minimum spend sometimes would be 100K to build an app. So 100K months wasn't something that was out of the ordinary in this world. But we were hitting, consistent 50 to 100K months over a period of time in revenue, though, which was the big lesson that I learned. But even though paychecks were coming through, I felt that I was really, truly hustling at heart. Like I wouldn't sleep. I didn't know what a weekend was or any of that sort of thing. And I had crazy responsibilities, salaries to pay. Some of my best sort of people on the design team had kids, so we had like taxes and all sorts of things to get through. But this sort of feast and famine model, even though it looked good on the outside, like we signed EA Sports and FIFA 21 and Vogue magazine, PlayStation, we built schools in Malawi and helped so many people. So and got awards for it, right? Like we were on Clutch for best web design agency for 2 years in a row. But I would go to sleep at night feeling stressed, feeling anxious, feeling unfulfilled. And yes, the money was coming in, but you would get some sort of like the feast, and then there would be famine. And all of that responsibility led me to become somebody that didn't feel true, right? To my values, to myself. And I was very close to my granddad who passed away in 2020 with cancer as well. And it sort of hit me because I was building a business where business was first and life was second. So I was, on cups of coffee and cortisol and just pure stress. So I had become this person that I didn't enjoy being. There came a point where I was like, I want to put family first. I want to put myself first. I got on LinkedIn as almost like a cry for help to be able to pay some salaries here and there. And everything we did at the agency on the marketing side, email funnels and this and that, and social media, I sort of did for myself to try to pick up some consulting outside of the tech world, more marketing based, to pay my bills and also, be a little more sovereign. And LinkedIn was what did it for me, if I'm honest. I sort of grew from 0 to 20K followers really fast, 2023 to 2024. But I was also doing things the conventional way, or the hustle bro way, as I would call it. I would grow my audience, do all the viral stuff, get into DMs and have coffee chats and try to close people on calls and, scaled Modern Maker. 2023-24, I hit my first 500K ARR year. It wasn't ARR at the time, but it was wow, you can do this. I had a setter and I had a closer as well. And I was onboarding another coach to help me with my mentorship program. But again, I found myself going, okay, LinkedIn opened up these doors, but was I again falling into that same trap of being misaligned and staying away from the truth? So at that time, while I was hustling, I didn't know any better. I was told that I had to do things the hustling way, right? By push sort of energy, where what I wanted to do was use pull energy, pull people into my orbit. And I was a writer at heart, always had email marketing in my background from the agency days. So cut long story short, I fizzled out the agency, and that was like a breath of fresh air, dealt with the wounds of letting go and all of that stuff, and sort of said, I'm gonna burn Modern Maker to the ground and rebuild it the Modern Maker way. Because all the coaches and the mentors that I was buying into were you had to have Slack groups and do it with sales calls and DMs and this and that. But it taught me the opposite of the hustle bro way. I sort of birthed the Modern Maker way, which was inbound driven, right? With pull energy. So instead of driving a sales driven business, I wanted to run a marketing driven business. And instead of doing strategy, I dove deep into my ethos and my vision, and I wanted to run a marketing driven business that was built on a system that I could install that enabled me to then be free. So I took the best of what I liked and what I loved and doubled down, spoke to the heart versus the hustle, and said, I'm a writer. I love not taking sales calls, getting things inbound, selling through Google Docs. Created a philosophy around Google Docs and actually went for it full on and said, I want to build this engine that gets me clients while I get to live. I'm now a dad to a wonderful daughter called Nefeli, who was born this February. And I sort of redesigned it to allow me to work 3 to 4 days a week, 5 to 6 hours a day on those days, set constraints and actually run a business I enjoyed that basically runs on one offer, one little client engine, and one source of traffic with no team, no sales calls, no DMs, and none of that. And that's what I want to sort of share with you right now at high level to see if you vibe with it, share what's worked, what hasn't worked for me, and hopefully you can learn something from that. So basically, the Modern Maker way sort of was founded by me going, okay, I don't want the sales calls. I missed too many family dinners and too many parties and too many, left my wife and friends hanging for so long. I didn't want to do that anymore. So I said, if I can take all of that knowledge and put it into one offer with 2 tiers of access, group coaching and one-to-one, I can then sell proximity. So what I did was I put in a very clear promise, a clear plan, and a price in context to the present pain of my ideal client. And I put that out in front of people, and people started saying yes. And I was like, that is amazing. Like, I've got this sort of mechanism that allows me to get those yeses as step one instead of doing the sales call. So that was a Google Doc offer. It was one leveraged, or rather proximity offer, where people could opt into the tier of proximity they wanted. Then I was like, okay, I need to have this engine that I now call the Daily Client Engine, that is comprised of basically a post and an email per day or every other day, which turns leads to customers and customers to clients. So what I was doing back the Hustle Bro way was getting a lead, getting them on a sales call, and then pitching them to become a client. Whereas this marketing first driven model, so the Daily Client Engine, I would make one offer per day on LinkedIn to get someone on my email list. I would meet them there with a lead magnet of some sort or a paid $50 product. And that $50 product would show buyer intent, right? The person who purchased that would then show me that, they now have intention. So then I would speak to that pool of customers who bought something for $50 and ascend them to my Modern Maker group or one-on-one. So the Daily Client Engine was comprised of basically one post on LinkedIn to get someone on the list, meet them with a customer offer on the way, and then I would write a daily email which converted them either into a customer or a client. I would just rotate between this week is low ticket, this week is high ticket. And that created this engine where I took my best assets, my best workshops, put them in as offers on the front, and would put them out to people to turn them into customers. So then I would talk to that pool of customers who have already transacted with me and made life so much easier that way to do. So the other sort of finding that I found was recording videos like this once a week and putting them out on YouTube enabled me to create depth and nurture with people. So I added this as the latest iteration to the client engine, where YouTube videos that share, or rather show the things that I do, pre-sell people into seeing a little bit of what I do. And if they vibe with it, then they can continue to the next step. So having little videos like that allowed somebody to give me more of their attention. So it's like a recent addition to the client engine. But to summarize it, in order to get to that offer, you needed to go through the Daily Client Engine and be presented the Google Doc that we mentioned in step one. Now, the last step of this little, Modern Maker operating system is the traffic flow. So I had to find a way to get traffic through to the client engine so I could present my offer. So my quote-unquote top of the funnel was pretty much LinkedIn organic and more recently Instagram paid ads. So I started dabbling in, I would say it's 90% LinkedIn right now organic and about 10% Instagram paid, where I would just simply boost organic posts that already performed well to get people through this traffic flow. So I have a set of organic posts that did really well. I would pay $5 a day to get more impressions, and then those impressions had little automations that take you to my Daily Client Engine, right? Like, again, get the lead magnets or get this free resource so you can come in to receive my emails, right? So it's a very, very simple thing where I sort of, on the traffic flow side, organically use LinkedIn, grew it now to just under 50,000 followers by posting one post a day, divided into 3 tiers. So I show somebody what I'm doing, the good, the bad, the ugly, like a mad scientist. So those are my show posts. Then I've got my share posts. So those are my hobbies, my interests. Everyone knows I love a bit of watermelon. I've got a daughter. I've got 3 cats and 3 dogs. That's sort of, travels, love for music and running. That's share content. And then I've got invite content, which is basically testimonials or case studies breaking down what it is I do with clients, so they can then see themselves in it. And I then make an invitation to either subscribe to my email list or DM me, comment, go to a YouTube video, or apply to work with me. So that is sort of how I set up the organic side of the traffic flow using show posts, share posts, and invite posts. Now, because this thing that I've sort of founded in the Modern Maker model is very pull energy, it takes some time to sort of install. But once you install the Daily Client Engine, you get your Google Doc offer, and you have your traffic flow, then all you have to do is basically maintain the traffic flow, because the engine runs itself. And that was so freeing to me, because nowadays I write one post on LinkedIn every day and one email a day. Sometimes they're scheduled, but it enables me to live my life without actually having to be there and be turned on all the time, right? Whereas the hustle bros will be like, you got to send DMs, bro. You got to do this, you got to do that. But the moment you decide to take a weekend off to live, your acquisition channels fall flat, right? And that was the big aha for me, shifting from all these strategies to having a model or a system that runs without you having to be physically present. And if I choose to have a day or two that I'm not going to post, my little $5 a day ad spend sort of trickles in and still brings leads, where I get about 10 to 15 leads coming through to my email list every day. And that is, again, with no team, no sales calls, no outbound. The only thing that I've done recently is when somebody goes through to my list, if it's a low ticket product, I simply send them to the checkout page. If it is my offer, they just comment a keyword, and from that keyword, they're sent the doc with this little AI bot or assistant that I have. So it's so freeing to see it installed, and then I just create, and I take the creator seat, write content that I enjoy, serve people that I want. At the moment, I'm serving about 170 students, which has been amazing, of which, last month I signed 21 of them completely automated using this engine. So I'm really, really happy to sort of have it dialed in and help others install it in their business, and being a huge advocate of Google Docs, because who I was as that agency owner wouldn't be the dad that I can be today, or the friend or the son or the present mentor or person that I am today without having shifted the model. Now, this model isn't for everyone, because some people might be like, Jacob, you know what? I love sales calls. I love the grind and the dopamine hits when I do this and that. And it's absolutely fine. But if any of this resonated with you, or parts of it resonated with you, that's why I love calling it a system, because some people choose to install all of it and others just install part of it. And that's, completely fine. But if any of that resonated with you and you'd like to sort of see what it would be like for us to work together, all you have to do is find me on Instagram at most_mojo and DM me the word M3. That's M3, and I'll send you the details. There's no commitment whatsoever, none of this sort of scarcity and urgency stuff. Simply a vibe, and if you vibe with it, I would love to sort of see you in my corner. But otherwise, hopefully you learned something about being able to run a marketing, not a sales-driven business with pull energy, not push energy, with one offer, one Daily Client Engine, and one traffic flow system that allows you to live. So hope you enjoyed that. If you have any questions, you can drop them down in the comments below. Hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.